The market was loud and full of colors, but John walked through it with tired steps, his hands deep in his worn jacket pockets. He was just another human traveler, unnoticed by most. Aliens bargained, shouted prices, and traded goods that smelled of metal, spices, and strange fruits. John was ready to leave when something unexpected happened. A small figure ran through the crowd, pushing past aliens twice her size. Her silver hair was messy, her clothes torn, and her glowing eyes filled with tears. She stumbled, almost fell, then caught sight of John. "Please," she cried, her voice shaking. "Please follow me home." The sound of her voice silenced the noise in John's mind. He froze for a moment, looking around. Was she talking to him? Hundreds of aliens were here, but her desperate eyes locked only on him. Before John could answer, she grabbed his sleeve. Her hand was cold, trembling like she had been running for her life. She pulled, weak but determined. "Please, human, come with me." John hesitated. He had seen many strange things in alien markets, but never this. Why was this girl begging him? Why not her own people? Why him, a stranger? The crowd around them turned their faces away. Some whispered, some smirked, but no one helped her. It was as if the entire market had decided to ignore her. John's heart tightened. He could walk away, pretend this was none of his business. Yet something in her voice and her tears broke through his defenses. "What happened to you?" he asked, keeping his voice low. She shook her head violently. "No time, please, just come." Her tears streamed down, leaving glowing streaks on her pale cheeks. Aliens passing by gave them looks, pity, fear, even disgust. But no one stopped John's. Instinct screamed that this was dangerous, but another part of him, the part that couldn't abandon someone in pain, took over. "All right," he said softly. "Lead the way." The girl almost collapsed with relief. She clutched his hand tightly, dragging him through the maze of stalls. John followed, scanning the crowd. He noticed shadows moving, too tall, figures watching from the far end of the market. Their armor glinted and their eyes followed only the girl. John clenched his jaw. Whoever they weren't friendly. The girl ran until the noise of the market grew faint. The air turned, colder as they entered a narrow alley. The walls were cracked. Pipes leaked strange vapors. It was the forgotten part of the city, a place where no merchant wanted to go. She slowed down finally, breathing hard. Her hands trembled as she tried to wipe her tears. She turned to John, her glowing eyes full of fear and sadness. "They will come," she whispered. "They always come." John looked at her closely now. She wasn't just any alien girl. Her skin had faint marks like burns or scars, old but deep. Her clothes were not only torn but stained with dried blood. She looked fragile, yet she carried herself with hidden strength. "Who will come?" John asked firmly. She shook her head again, refusing to speak. Instead, she pointed ahead. At the end of the alley stood a broken metal door, barely hanging on its hinges. "My home," she whispered. "Please, see for yourself." John's chest tightened. Something about her voice made his heart heavy. He followed her inside. The house was dark and silent. The smell of smoke and dust filled the air. Broken furniture lay scattered across the floor. Shattered glass crunched under his boots. On the walls were black marks. Like burns from energy weapons, John's eyes narrowed. This wasn't just a poor home. This was a crime scene. The girl stood in the middle of the wreckage, her hands shaking as she touched a broken chair. She looked around as if searching for something that wasn't there anymore. Then her knees buckled and she fell to the ground, sobbing. "They took everything," she whispered. "They left me nothing." John crouched beside her. His hand hovered, unsure if he should comfort her. He had seen suffering before on Earth and beyond, but this was different. This girl was not just in pain, she was broken, abandoned, yet still alive. "Who did this?" John asked gently. She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, cracked pendant. It glowed, faintly flickering like a dying star. She clutched it to her chest, her tears falling on it. "This is all I have left," she whispered. Please, human, don't leave me alone. John's throat tightened. He felt the weight of her words pressing against his chest. Something inside him shifted. The market, the aliens, his own plans, all of it faded. What mattered now was this broken girl, her tears, and the mystery of what had destroyed her world. Outside in the shadows, the two armored figures waited silently, their glowing eyes fixed on the broken doorway. One of them raised a communicator to his mouth, and his voice was cold. She has found the human, just as expected. The story was only beginning. The broken metal door creaked as John pushed it open wider. Dust fell from the hinges, and the echo of the sound traveled through the silent house. The air inside felt heavier, as if the walls carried the weight of tragedy. The alien girl stepped in first, her small frame almost swallowed by the darkness. She touched the walls with trembling fingers, as though she hoped something familiar would still remain. Her glowing eyes reflected the dim light, making her look both fragile and otherworldly. John followed carefully. His boots crushed shards of glass and bent pieces of metal. He scanned the room. Every corner told a story of violence, tables overturned, fabric torn apart, and strange black stains burned into the floor. This was your home? John asked quietly. She nodded, her lips pressed tight. Her eyes wandered over the ruins until they fell on a shattered frame on the floor. She bent down and lifted it. The glass had cracked, but inside was a picture, faded yet clear enough. It showed her family, two adults standing proudly behind her younger self, all of them smiling. Her hands shook as she held the frame. This was before. Before they came, John crouched beside her. He saw the tenderness in her grip, the way her tears dripped onto the broken glass, and his heart clenched. Who came? He asked again, more firmly this time. The girl shook her head, refusing to speak instead. She placed the broken frame against her chest as if it were a shield. Her silence was louder than any scream. John rose to his feet. His eyes caught something strange on the far wall. A symbol burned deep into the metal, a jagged mark shaped like a claw. It wasn't random. It was a message, one he couldn't understand, but one that clearly carried power and threat. He turned to the girl. What does this mean? Her eyes widened and she quickly looked away. Don't say it, don't even look at it too long, she whispered. If they know you saw it, they will come for you too. John felt a cold shiver crawl down his spine. Whoever they were, their presence lingered like poison in the air. He moved deeper into the room. Every step revealed more destruction. A chair with deep claw-like slashes, a table broken into pieces, and a toy half melted by some kind of energy blast. It wasn't just an attack, it was a warning. Suddenly, the girl gasped. She rushed to a corner of the room and knelt beside a broken chest. Her hands dug through the debris. She pulled out a small blanket, frayed but intact. She hugged it to herself as if it were a treasure. My little brother's, she whispered, her voice cracked. He was only 6 cycles. John froze. His throat tightened. He didn't need to ask what had happened. The silence in the house already carried the answer. The girl clutched the blanket and rocked back and forth, her tears dripping silently onto the fabric. For the first time, John saw her not just as an alien child, but as a soul torn apart by cruelty. He knelt beside her, placing a steady hand on her shoulder. You don't have to carry this alone anymore, he said. His voice was calm but heavy with promise. The girl looked at him, her glowing eyes wide, searching his face for any sign of betrayal. When she found none, she gave a small, broken nod. Before John could say more, the sound of footsteps echoed outside. Heavy, metallic steps that grew closer with each passing second. The girl's head shot up, her body stiff with terror. She clutched the blanket tighter. They're here, she whispered. John's muscles tensed. He looked at the shattered doorway, shadows shifting just beyond the broken frame. The 2 armored figures had followed them. Their outlines glowed faintly in the dim light. Their weapons hanging ready, John cursed under his breath. He scanned the room quickly. His eyes landed on a broken metal rod lying across the floor. He picked it up, testing its weight, crude but solid. The girl's hands shook as she reached for his sleeve. You can't fight them. They'll kill you just like... Her words died in her throat. John gave her a steady look. I've faced worse than monsters in armor, he said, his voice calm but firm. If they want you, they'll have to go through me first. The door groaned as the armored figures stepped inside. Their tall frames filled the space. Their glowing visors reflected the broken home like mirrors of death. One of them spoke, his voice deep and mechanical. Step away from the girl, human. This is not your concern. John tightened, his grip on the metal rod. His heart pounded, but his stance remained solid. Looks like it is now, he replied. The girl's breath caught in her throat. She stared at John as if she couldn't believe his words. For the first time since she met him, a flicker of hope touched her tear-streaked face. The armored figures stepped closer, their heavy boots shaking the ground. The silence between them stretched thin, ready to snap, and in that moment, John knew, whatever this fight was, whatever dangers waited ahead, he could no longer walk away. The shattered doorway was no longer just the entrance to a broken home. It was the start of a war. The room fell silent after the armored figures stepped inside. Their glowing visors locked on the alien girl. Their weapons hummed with a low energy that made the air feel heavy. John stood between them and the girl, his grip tight on the metal rod. He knew he was only human, no armor, no advanced weapon, but he wasn't going to move. Human, one of the soldiers said, his voice cold and mechanical. This girl belongs to us. Step aside and you will live. John's jaw tightened. He didn't move. His silence was louder than any refusal. The soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, a faint alarm echoed in the distance, a sharp, piercing sound that made them turn their heads. Without a word, they stepped back, retreating toward the doorway. One of them gave a final warning. You cannot protect her forever. Then they vanished into the shadows, their heavy steps fading into the night. John exhaled, his shoulders relaxing only slightly. He turned to the girl. She was still clutching the blanket and frame, her entire body trembling. Her glowing eyes stared at the floor, wide with fear. You're safe, for now, John said, his voice steady but low. But you need to tell me what's going on. Who are they? Why do they want you? The girl shook her head, pressing her lips together. If I tell you, you will hate me too. John crouched beside her, meeting her eyes. I've seen many things across the stars. Nothing will make me hate a child crying for help. Her tears spilled again. She lowered the blanket slowly and pulled her torn sleeve aside. Beneath the fabric, scars stretched across her arm, some old, some fresh. They weren't just wounds from random violence. These were marks of punishment, deliberate and cruel. John's stomach turned. Who did this to you? He asked softly. She hesitated, then whispered, My own people. The words cut through the silence like a blade. John felt anger burn inside him. He thought of the crowd at the market, how they had turned away from her, refusing to see her. Tears. Now it made sense. They hadn't ignored her by accident. They wanted her to suffer. Why? John pressed, his voice shaking with controlled rage. The girl clutched the pendant in her hand, its glow flickering weakly. They said I carry the curse of my bloodline, that my family was marked by betrayal long ago. My parents tried to protect me, but... Her voice broke. They were taken. I was left. John listened, his heart heavy. The scars on her arms told a story of survival. Every line carved into her skin was proof she had endured torment that no child should face. He reached out carefully, placing his hand over hers. Scars don't make you cursed, he said firmly. They make you stronger than the ones who gave them. Her lips trembled. She looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. But everyone hates me. No one will stand with me. John gave a small, sad smile. Then I guess you're wrong, because I'm standing with you right now. For the first time, the girl's tears slowed. Her breathing eased. Hope flickered faintly in her glowing eyes. But the peace didn't last long. A loud crash echoed outside. John snapped his head toward the broken doorway. Shadows flickered across the wall. The armored soldiers hadn't gone far. They were circling, waiting. John's instincts sharpened. He helped the girl to her feet. "We can't stay here. They'll be back." She hesitated, looking around the ruins of her home. "But this is all I have left." John squeezed her shoulder gently. "Homes can be rebuilt, families can't. If we stay, they'll take you. Do you understand?" Her hands tightened around the pendant. Then slowly she nodded. Together they stepped toward the doorway, but John paused. His eyes swept over the symbol burned into the wall again. He memorized its shape. He didn't know its meaning, but he knew it was the key to everything. Her suffering, her scars, and the soldier's hunt. As they stepped into the cold alley, the girl whispered, "Why are you helping me, human? You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." John didn't answer right away. His eyes searched the shadows, scanning for threats. Then he said, "Because when I saw you crying in that market, begging for help, I remembered someone else, who once begged me the same way. I couldn't save them, but I can save you." The girl's breath caught. She looked at him differently now, not just as a stranger, but as someone who carried his own hidden wounds. The night air was sharp. The city lights flickered in the distance. Behind them, the shattered doorway stood as a silent witness to all the pain inside. But ahead of them was only uncertainty. Soldiers, waiting, enemies unseen, a curse unspoken. The girl gripped his hand, her small fingers tightening. "Then I will trust you, even if no one else does," she whispered. John nodded once, his heart heavy, his mind sharp. Whatever hunted her was bigger than he understood, but he had already chosen his path. And though both carried scars, one seen and one hidden, together they stepped into the unknown. The alley stretched long and narrow, pipes leaking strange mist, broken lights flickering overhead. John guided the alien girl carefully, her small hand clutching his. She kept looking over her shoulder, her glowing eyes filled with fear. "They won't stop," she whispered. "Once they mark someone, the hunters follow until nothing is left." John's grip tightened. His instincts told him the same thing. He had seen predators before, on Earth, on distant worlds. Beasts never gave up once they caught a scent. The sound of distant boots echoed behind them, heavy, steady, too measured to be random. John's jaw set. He didn't need to look back to know. They were being followed. He quickened their pace, weaving through the maze of alleys. Every shadow felt alive. Every corner hid danger. He could sense the city itself watching them. The girl's breathing grew sharp. She stumbled, nearly falling. John caught her arm, steadying her. "Easy," he said. "Just a little farther." "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Somewhere with more eyes," John replied. "Dark alleys make good traps. We need a place with witnesses, somewhere they can't strike so easily." But even as he said it, he remembered the market, how everyone had turned away. Silent witnesses were worse than none at all. They turned onto a wider street, neon lights glowing above. The girl clung closer. Her scars ached under her sleeve. Reminders of every time she had been cornered before. John scanned the rooftops, and there, movement. A dark figure leapt silently from one roof to another. The hunter's shadow followed them, always just far enough to stay unseen. John slowed, whispering to the girl, "Don't look back, just keep walking, calm and steady." Her voice cracked. "They're here, aren't they?" "Yes," John said, his eyes sharp, "but so am I." The girl wanted to believe his words, but fear gnawed at her. Every step forward felt heavier. Her people had abandoned her. Hunters wanted her gone. Yet this one human, a stranger, stood. Against it all, they reached the edge of an old district, towers leaning against each other like tired giants. The lights were dimmer here, the streets emptier. John didn't like it. The shadow had drawn them away from safety, closer to a trap. Suddenly, a sound, metal striking stone. A shape dropped behind them, tall and armored, visor glowing. The girl froze, her breath caught in her throat. Another shadow moved to block the way ahead. Two hunters now, their heavy presence filling the street. John pushed the girl gently behind him, his eyes scanning both figures. He held only the broken metal rod from her house, but his stance was solid. One of the hunters spoke. "Human, walk away. This is not your burden. She is cursed. She is ours." John's voice was steady. "If she belongs to anyone, it's to herself, not to monsters hiding behind armor." The hunter tilted his head, almost amused. "You don't understand what she is, what danger she carries." John's eyes narrowed. "Then explain." But no explanation came. Instead, the hunters raised their weapons, energy glowing bright. The girl clutched John's sleeve, whispering, "Fast. You can't fight them. They'll kill you. You'll end up broken like me." John turned his head slightly toward her, his voice calm but fierce. "Maybe. But if I run, you'll be alone, and I won't let that happen." The hunters advanced, their steps echoing like thunder. John tightened his grip on the rod, his mind racing. He couldn't match their strength, but maybe he didn't need to. "Stay low," he whispered to the girl. "And when I move, you run. Find the busiest street. Don't stop until you're lost in the crowd." Her glowing eyes widened. "No, I can't leave you." "You must," John said firmly. "If I fall, you live. That's the deal." Before she could argue, the hunters lunged, weapons crackling. John swung the rod with all his strength. The first strike clashed against the armored gauntlet, sparks flying. The force jolted through his arms, but he held firm. The second hunter aimed at the girl. John twisted, slamming the rod into the weapon. The blast shot wide, burning a hole into the wall. The alley filled with smoke and heat. The girl screamed, covering her ears. Her pendant glowed brighter for a moment, pulsing like a heartbeat. The hunter's visors flickered, reacting to its light. John noticed it instantly. "That pendant, what is it?" The girl shook her head, terrified. "It's all I have left. It's why they want me." The hunters growled, pressing forward harder. Their focus sharpened on the glowing pendant. John realized the truth. This wasn't just about her bloodline, or curse. Something in that pendant carried power. John's arms ached, but his spirit burned. He wasn't going to let them win. Not here. Not tonight. With a sudden move, he kicked debris into one hunter's legs, knocking him off balance. He grabbed the girl's hand. "Now, run." Together they sprinted down the side street, their steps echoing, their breaths sharp. Behind them, the hunters recovered, their furious voices carried through the night. "You cannot escape the shadow," one roared, but John didn't look back. He only held the girl's hand tighter, his own heart pounding like drums of war. Because now he knew. This wasn't just about protecting her. This was about standing against something far darker. The shadow that followed them was no ordinary threat. It was the beginning of a hunt that could change everything. The city lights blurred as John and the alien girl ran. Their breaths came sharp, their steps echoing through empty streets. Behind them, the hunters' voices carried like thunder. But for now, the distance grew. Finally, John pulled the girl into a narrow passage between two crumbling towers. The shadows swallowed them. He pressed her against the wall gently, his hand raised for silence. The girl clutched her glowing pendant tight to her chest. Her tears streaked her cheeks. Her small frame trembled, but she didn't cry out. The hunters, heavy boots, marched past the entrance. Their visors scanned the streets, but they didn't look inside the narrow crack. Their shadows stretched long, then slowly faded away. John exhaled, his chest rising and falling. He leaned against the wall, sweat dripping down his temple. "That was too close," he muttered. The girl's voice trembled. "They'll find us again, they always do." John looked at her, his jaw set. "Not if I make them stop." She blinked at him, shocked. "You can't fight them. You saw their weapons, their armor. They are part of the enforcers. No one dares stand against them." John crouched so his eyes met hers. His voice was calm but hard. "Listen, I don't care who they are. I've seen tyrants before. I've seen monsters hiding behind law. And I've seen what happens when good people stay silent. I won't stay silent. Not while you suffer." Her glowing eyes shimmered with disbelief. For so long no one had stood by her. And now this human, who owed her nothing, spoke as though her pain was his own. John wiped dirt from his palms, then asked firmly, "Tell me everything. No more secrets. If I'm going to protect you, I need to know why they want you. What's in that pendant? The girl hesitated. Her small fingers touched the pendant. Its faint glow pulsed like a weak heartbeat. She closed her eyes, whispering, "This pendant is not just a memory of my family. It is proof." "Proof of what?" John pressed. "Proof of betrayal," she said softly. Her voice cracked. "Long ago, my ancestor refused to bow to the High Council. He tried to free our people from slavery, but he failed. And the Council marked our bloodline as cursed. Every generation they hunt us, reminding everyone of our shame. My parents tried to protect me, but when they found out we still carried the pendant, they came for us." Her tears fell again, dripping onto the glowing stone. "This is why they hate me, why no one will help me. They say justice was already given long ago, but I want the truth." John listened carefully, his heart heavy. "So this is not just about you, it's about a history they want to bury." She nodded. "Yes, if this pendant reaches the right place, if someone dares speak it aloud, it will prove the Council's crimes. But no one dares. Everyone fears. Them." Her hands trembled as she looked at him. "That's why I begged you in the market, human. I saw it in your eyes. You didn't look away like the others. You didn't see me as cursed." John's chest tightened. He thought of his own past. People he couldn't save. Voices silenced because no one stood for them. Now standing in this broken city. He felt the weight of her words press into his soul. "You want justice," John said quietly. "Not just for you, but for your family, for your bloodline." She nodded slowly, her tears shining. "Yes, but I cannot do it alone." John placed his hand gently on her shoulder, his voice steady. "Then you won't be alone anymore." For a long moment, silence hung heavy, only their breaths filling the dark passage. The girl's glowing eyes searched his face, as if trying to believe his promise. But their moment didn't last. A sudden hum filled the air. Drones appeared above the street, their red lights scanning the ground. John pulled the girl deeper into the shadows, but the drone's lights swept dangerously close. "We can't hide forever," John muttered. "If what you said is true, then running will only delay them. We need to fight back. We need to show them the truth." The girl gasped. "Fight them? But everyone who tries ends up dead." John's voice was cold, resolute. "Then maybe it's time they meet someone who doesn't fear death." The girl clutched his arm. "But why risk your life for me?" He looked at her, his eyes fierce. "Because justice matters, because I've seen too many tyrants win, and because, when you cried in that market, you reminded me of everything I failed to protect. I won't fail again." Her tears returned, but this time they weren't just from pain. They carried something new, something fragile. Hope. The drones moved on, their red lights vanishing into the night sky. Silence returned, heavy but calmer. The girl whispered, her voice breaking. Then, "Help me, human. Help me bring justice, not just for me, but for all the voices they silenced." John nodded once, his voice low but firm. "We will, I promise." And though the hunters still searched, though the city's shadows crawled with danger, a seed had been planted in the darkness. A cry for justice, carried by a broken girl and a stubborn human, was about to shake the silence of an empire. The city never truly slept. Neon lights flickered weakly, drones buzzed in the sky, and hunters moved, like shadows through the alleys. John and the alien girl walked quickly, keeping to the dimmest paths. Every step felt like walking on the edge of a blade. The girl clutched her pendant tight. Her glowing eyes darted around nervously. "They know we're still here," she whispered. "They won't stop until I am gone." John's voice was calm but firm. "Then we won't hide anymore. If they want you, they'll have to face me." She stared at him, shocked. "You can't fight them. You're just a human. They have power, armies, the Council's law." John stopped walking. His eyes burned with quiet fire. Power means nothing if no one stands against it. Armies mean nothing if people refuse to bow. Law means nothing if it crushes the innocent. I won't bow to them." The girl trembled, not with fear this time, but with something else. Respect? She had never seen anyone speak with such certainty. Suddenly a noise echoed ahead. The streetlights flickered, and from the shadows armored hunters stepped out. Their visors glowed like burning coals. Weapons ready. They had been waiting. The leader's voice was sharp. Enough running, cursed child. Hand over the pendant, and maybe the human will live. John pushed the girl behind him. His grip tightened around the bent metal rod, his stance unshaken. If you want her, you'll have to take her through me. The hunters laughed, the sound harsh and metallic. One man against the enforcers of the council? Foolish. But John didn't flinch. His voice cut through their laughter. I've seen empires rise and fall. I've buried friends under tyrants' boots. If you think fear will break me, you don't know humans. The girl's eyes widened at his words. For the first time she saw him not just as a protector, but as something greater. A man who carried his own battles, his own scars, and still chose to fight. The hunters raised their weapons. The air hummed with deadly energy. John's muscles tensed. He knew he couldn't match their strength or technology, but he also knew something they didn't. Resolve. The first blast shot forward. John swung the rod, sparks flying as the energy deflected off metal pipes nearby. The explosion threw debris into the street. Smoke filled the air. Run! John shouted, pulling the girl down a side alley. But the hunters followed fast, their armored steps shaking the ground. They cornered them in an abandoned square, cracked stone beneath their boots, broken statues looming above like ghosts of forgotten heroes. The hunters formed a circle, weapons glowing brighter. The leader spoke again. You cannot win, human, step aside. This girl carries only shame. Her bloodline is cursed. John raised his rod like a sword. His voice was steady, strong. Her bloodline carries courage, it carries truth, and if you call that a curse, then I stand cursed with her. The girl gasped, her heart pounding. No one had ever spoken like that for her, not even her own people. The hunters charged. Energy blasts lit the night. John moved with desperate strength, swinging, blocking, striking. Sparks rained around him. His body ached, his arms burned. But he didn't fall. Each time they struck, he stood again, bruised, battered, but unbroken. The girl clutched the pendant, her tears streaming. Her small voice whispered, Please, please don't take him from me too. The pendant glowed brighter, pulsing stronger with her plea. The hunters paused, their visors flickering. The glow from the pendant spread across the square, illuminating the broken statues. For a moment, even the hunters hesitated as though the light exposed their lies. John noticed their weakness instantly. He raised his rod and roared, You call yourselves enforcers, but you are only cowards hiding from the truth. He struck forward, his blow landing hard against one hunter's visor. Cracks spread across it. The armored figure stumbled back, sparks flying. The girl's pendant shone like a small star now, its light cutting through the shadows. Her voice rose, trembling but fierce. You cannot erase us, you cannot erase the truth. The hunters staggered, the glow burning against their armor. They weren't defeated, but they were shaken. John stood tall, chest heaving, bruises covering him. His voice echoed through the square. You see this girl as weak, as cursed. But she is stronger than all of you because she still stands, because she still dares to live. The hunters hissed, their voices filled with anger. This is not over, human. You've made yourself an enemy of the council. They pulled back, retreating into the darkness, their heavy steps fading, their warning clear. John lowered the rod, slowly, his body trembling with exhaustion. The girl rushed to his side, her glowing eyes wide with awe and fear. You fought them. You stood against them. No one has ever done that for me. John smiled weakly, his lip bleeding. And I'll keep standing as long as you need me. She clutched the pendant and whispered, Then maybe there is still hope. John looked at her, his tired eyes burning with determination. Hope is stronger than any curse, he said, and tonight they learned that a human will never bow. Above them, the night sky stretched vast and endless. But in that broken square beneath shattered statues, a stand had been made, and for the first time the hunters had stepped back. The square was silent after the hunters disappeared. Smoke hung in the air, Broken stones scattered around, and John stood in the middle, breathing hard. His body ached from bruises, but his spirit stood unbroken. The alien girl sat beside him on the cracked ground, clutching her glowing pendant. Her small hands trembled, her glowing eyes wet with tears. "You could have died," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Why? Why would you fight for me?" John sat down slowly, resting the bent rod against the stones. He wiped blood from his lip and looked at her. His voice was low but steady. "Because no one should face this alone. Because I know what it means to lose everything." The girl tilted her head, searching his tired face. "You lost someone too?" John's gaze grew distant. His voice carried sorrow. "A long time ago, I couldn't protect someone I cared about. I thought I had buried that part of me. But when you ran to me in tears, I saw the same fear, the same pain. I couldn't walk away again." Her tears fell faster. She lowered her head. "Then, you understand? You understand how my heart feels broken." John placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Yes, but broken hearts can still beat. And sometimes, when two broken hearts meet, they make each other stronger." For the first time, a faint smile touched her lips, fragile but real. The night deepened and the city grew quieter, yet danger still lingered. They both knew the hunters would return, stronger, with more soldiers. The council would not forgive this defiance. The girl looked at the glowing pendant, its light now soft and steady. "This carries truth," she whispered. "But truth alone is not enough. Someone must carry it, someone must speak it." John nodded, his jaw firm. "Then we will together." Her eyes widened. "Together? Even if the whole council turns against you?" John smiled faintly, though his body was weary. "Humans have never been good at kneeling to tyrants. We don't give up, even when the odds are impossible." She looked at him with awe. Her heart, once drowned in despair, felt a spark of warmth she hadn't known in years. They rose to their feet slowly, moving through the ruined square. John's steps heavy but determined, the girl's lighter, as though his strength carried her forward. When they reached the edge of the street, they stopped, looking back at the broken statues. The girl whispered softly, "This is where my family used to bring me. They said the statues reminded us of heroes, but now they are broken, just like us." John's voice was calm. "Heroes aren't made of stone, they're made of choices. Tonight you chose to survive, and I chose to stand. That's more heroic than any statue." Her glowing eyes shimmered, and for the first time she believed it. They walked on, leaving the square behind. But as they passed a group of city dwellers hiding in shadows, something unexpected happened. One alien, old and weary, whispered, "Human. You fought the enforcers and lived?" John stopped, his eyes sharp. "Yes." The old alien nodded slowly, whispering again. "Then maybe the curse is not a curse at all." The words spread quietly among them, soft murmurs in the dark. For years, no one had dared defy the enforcers, and yet this human had stood and survived. The seed of doubt in the council's lies had begun to grow. The girl clutched John's hand tighter, her voice soft but hopeful. "Do you hear them? They're beginning to see." John gave a small nod. "Then we've already started something." They reached the outskirts of the city, where the lights dimmed and the stars stretched vast across the sky. John paused, looking up at the endless horizon. The girl followed his gaze, her pendant glowing softly against her chest. "Where will we go now?" she asked. John's voice was steady. "Wherever the truth takes us. If this pendant is proof, then we'll carry it to those who will listen, even if we have to cross the galaxy." Her small hand squeezed his. "I'm not afraid anymore. Not as long as you're with me." John looked at her, his eyes tired but burning with quiet strength. "And I promise, as long as I breathe, you won't face the darkness alone." The girl's broken heart, scarred by loss and pain, began to heal in that moment. Not because her scars were gone, but because she had found someone who chose to stay. Together they stepped into the starlight. Two souls bound not by blood but by bond. A human carrying the weight of his own wounds, and an alien girl carrying the truth of her people. Behind them, the city still whispered. The hunters would return. The council would rise in fury. But ahead of them stretched a path of hope. And in the silence of the night, as stars watched from above, one thing was certain. A broken heart had found a new bond, and that bond would shake the galaxy